Welcome back to the Early Days podcast, where it's never too late to start. I'm your host, Nick Triantos. Today, my guest is someone who co founded the world's first video group chat for iMessage. And not only that, he was able to build the app to over 1 million downloads in just the first 10 days. 10 days, Frankie. That's quite a short time.
Nick, thanks for having me on, man. Yeah, definitely a whirlwind of a launch to launch a FAM, and definitely would love to get into the details of that as we go on. But thank you for having me on the podcast, and congrats on getting it started, and hope I can share some really good insights.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. So you're kind of a tech genius here. So walk me through in the beginning. What inspired you to go down a tech route? I know that you're in media, so just touch up upon that. A little about Smack High. That's where you started. Could you give me the rundown on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so coming out of high school and going into college, I actually I took a year off after high school because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I kind of liked everything in high school. I did well in class, and I had a tough time really zeroing in on what I wanted to really focus on in my career. And so in college, when I first got to Harvard, I knew that I wanted to kind of start some type of business at some point. Didn't know what that meant. But I was disappointed to find out that Harvard, as an undergrad, offers absolutely no entrepreneurship undergrad or like business administration. Which, when I tell people that, they are kind of like a little bit shocked a little bit because
I never knew
it's
that.
yeah, it's 'cause, it's Harvard. You think it is that, but it's a very liberal arts college, so you have all the classic English, biology, and stuff. So I had to kind of like seek out that interest in like side like clubs or like like business clubs or uh, tech clubs that were on campus, or just YouTube when I got home from class, just trying to see what I wanted to kind of do with that. And I really just had being a consumer of technology, of mobile products, consumer mobile products and apps like at the time Facebook and Instagram, really just loved how they brought people together and how those platforms is at face value, they're just places where people can express themselves, but they're much
Yeah,
more than just
community.
that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely.
Exactly. So I wanted to kind of think of certain things where I could bring a specific group of people together and rally behind a certain brand, that could be the kind of like the next big thing. And basically coming out of high school, even though I loved high school, the one downside to it was that high school is kind of like an awkward phase for a lot of kids.
And where'd
It's
you go to
people.
high school?
I went to Arlington Catholic in
Oh
Arlington,
man.
Mass.
Okay.
Where'd you go?
No, I went to St. John's Prep.
I saw the prep. There you go. Yeah, well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you guys definitely had the edge in most sports. So
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, so what inspired you to go down that route, and what were you studying in school that made you make the shift? Because I know you said that they didn't offer entrepreneurial stuff. So what were you going to major in, and what were you trying to be at the time?
yeah, yeah. So I was starting to study economics, because that was like the kind of closest thing to like business, even though it's still
Hmm.
not really business at all. It got me kind of like the footing of the basics of like supply and demand, right? Like certain products that are wanted or not wanted. But then I just kind of realized that that was not still the thing I wanted to do. So I kind of came to grips with the fact that I wanted to just when I'm here at school at Harvard, like I want to take something where I can actually like learn something valuable. So I ended up just kind of focusing more on like actually history, because that was actually a really good decision because it allowed me freed up a lot of time for me to pursue learning tech on the side on my own and self teaching it and attending all of these like kind of like tech clubs or business clubs where I could really get deep with a lot with a really big network while I was in college, and that turned out to be the value.
Yeah, I feel like that's really big thing. No matter what you're doing, just expanding your horizon because you never know. I mean, for your case, what you were doing with your major in economics, so you kind of saw that it doesn't add up with what you were trying to get at, and you really want to dive down into something else to try to strive for it in a way. Does that make sense?
That's absolutely right. Yeah, it's absolutely right. It's almost like it kind of take a lesser weight on one, so then you can then increase your focus on the other.
Okay. So you left school, right? Is that right? You dropped
Yeah,
out of Harvard.
yeah,
Okay. So
that's
what were
right.
your I myself dropped out of school too. What were you feeling at the time? I mean, I know that you had some success there. You were developing Smack High. Where was that at that time when you
Yeah,
dropped out?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so in my freshman year, I'd started to have this idea for a high school only kind of like platform, like community, right? There was Facebook at the time and Twitter was hot as well, but they're all still very generic. There wasn't a place where, you as like a high school student could, see high school only content and really filter it down and, focusing on that part of your life. It's 4 years of your life. It's a big moment. There was Barstool, which had a lot of college content. So I wanted to kind of say, hey, like, this that worked for colleges, right? Barstool worked for like a lot of college content. Why not kind of recreate something similar but for high school and like really just make it specific and tailored to high school?
So
So
just
I started.
innovating to a different demographic.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and so I basically, here I am, a freshman in college, broke college kid, trying to think how can I validate this hypothesis, right? Like, I don't have the funds to start a business like that or hire an engineer. So how can I prove this basically for free? So I started a Twitter page at the time, 2015, 2013 to 2015. Twitter was a really hot platform amongst like college kids and teenagers. And I created a Twitter page, and I basically hit up a bunch of my buddies that were at Saugus High. That's where I kind of grew up, and I kind of said, "Hey, like, give me some of the dirt that's going on at Saugus these days." Even though I went to AC, I had a lot of friends at Saugus High, and so they would feed me some content, and then I would basically structure these tweets. So what I would do is I would post like 100, 200 tweets on this free Twitter page I started, right? Of just content, right? Saugus High, Wakefield High, Melrose High, the
And
prep,
what were you posting? Like, what was it? Was
Yeah,
it
so it
kind of
was
like Barstool, like kind of like it's just relatable, like? But I mean,
yeah,
in your case, it's high schoolers, so more like relatable to high schoolers and stuff like that.
yes, yeah, great question. So it was think of it like whatever happens in the day in the life of a high school student that was on Smack High, right? A lot of it was sports are a big part of high school for a majority of the student population. So that was I would say 50% of the content. It was all short form tweets and some photos and videos. So there was like rival sports, like kind of smack talk. There was all of it was curated and for any bullying. So we try to make sure as much as possible there's no kind of like individual people getting called out. There you had like pranks getting posted on there, like the senior pranks, or like maybe what happened on some parties over the weekend. You had top sports plays, like the best student sections on the Friday night football games, anything and just opinions too. That we really wanted to like let students know that they had a voice and they could submit something anonymously and if they without it kind of like making them feel like they were going to get attacked for it, right? Because in high school, there's a lot going on. There's everyone's
For
changing.
sure.
Everyone's kind of going
You don't
through
know
like
what you're
that.
doing. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, so essentially, I post all this content, and what I immediately would do here's a kind of free growth hack for all the uh, starving entrepreneurs out there who don't have
I
money
need
to
it.
like really start something. I would post all this content, so I'd pre-populate the page with enough content where it felt like it was alive and rich, right?
Hmm.
Then what I would do was it was actually pretty funny when uh, every high school student, what they would, and even when you're in college too, but especially high school, you would put, SJP, St. John's Prep or Arlington Catholic
Yeah.
in your Twitter bio because you're proud of it. You go to that school, it's the way you identify yourself, right? So I literally would just search like Saugus High, Melrose High, and I would follow every single
Oh.
high school student that put that in their bio. So I'd follow like
So that's how
2,000
you
people.
filtered out everyone.
Exactly.
So were
So I
you
follow.
trying to? Were you in the beginning? You were just trying to target local.
Yes, it was hyper local. In my case, North Shore High School, kind of North Shore of Massachusetts high school content. So when I follow all these people, they all get the notification, of course. Smack High followed you. They're like, what the hell is this page? Naturally, you check it out to see who's following you. Then when they get to my page, they see all of these pre-populated tweets of every high school that they know about, including their own. And then it makes them think, how does this person or this page know so much about my school? Even though I don't really know much, I'm getting it from other people. And then they'd follow me because they see a bunch of tweets that was relevant to them.
So you're kind of just outsourcing without really realizing it, or did you realize it?
Yeah, so yeah, I owned none of the content, right? It was all submitted to me, so I'm just leveraging what was out there because I didn't have much of it. Some of it I would create on my own, of course, what I knew, but at the end of the day, I was still a year out of high school. I didn't know too much about what was going on new, right? So I would do that, and then I would, out of the 2,000 people, let's say I would follow, I'd get like 500 followers back, right? Because which is actually pretty good conversion. So there's 500 free
Back
subscribers in the
then
course.
too.
Yeah, exactly. So I would do this formula every single day, 100 to 200 tweets a day, and I would keep doing the same area until I felt like that area, like so, say Saugus, Melrose, whatever, was saturated enough, right? I feel like everyone in Saugus High School knew about Smack High at this point. Then I would start to
So
really go after like Wakefield or whatever.
in the beginning, what did you think it would get at? Like, did you have a vision that it'd be to a point that it was?
So it honestly was kind of like a joke at first, like just kind of like something on the side to see like, hey, can I do something here? And then basically realized pretty quickly, like with just the appetite that was around for it, that this could be something more. And so as I started to kind of like pump out this content and open the floodgates for people to submit to me, what I did was I created a free Google form. You can anyone can make them right now for free. I put the link in the bio, and I said, hey everyone, I'm getting way too many DMs now. I can't keep looking at all you. I've made a link that's anonymous, fully anonymous. You can submit all your stuff there. I'll look at everything, approve it. If it's good enough, I'll tweet it out. And then what that actually did was that created a sense of like kind of like exclusivity,
Yeah.
because I would get thousands of submissions a day, but only would post like 100. So if yours got posted, you felt good. So like you could then
Yeah.
screenshot and be like, oh my god, Smack High posted my news
And then
story.
they would
You tell your friend.
repost it. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
So
So
you
this
just had
kept
that
this kept
organic growth.
Exactly. This is all again all free, not spending $1 on an ad or anything. And so I would then basically, within the course of a couple of weeks, the page got to about 10,000, 20,000 followers. Then something interesting happened. I started getting messages from high school students in New Hampshire, and this is where I was like,
The
I don't
domino
know.
effect.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, I know no one in New Hampshire. I don't know what to do at this point. So after just talking to a few students, I realized that what what the people craved was basically like a hyper local newsstand for each state. Each like Smack High in Massachusetts, Smack High New Hampshire, Smack High New York, etc. So then I just kind of said, this is the strategy I'm going to do for each state across the country.
Hmm. So you branched off between each state?
That's
I
right.
thought it was always one.
Yeah, and everyone that I speak with says the same thing, because and that's actually good. We wanted you to feel like it was Smack High,
It was
Massachusetts.
exclusive.
Exactly. We want to be like Barstool, whereas like a pish posh of a million articles that aren't that maybe one is relevant to you, right? We wanted every single tweet on Smack High Mass to be somewhat relevant to you, because it's still under the state of Massachusetts, which is where you live and go to school, right? So I applied the same exact formula to New York, to Georgia, to California, and we I eventually was fortunate enough to get a lot of high school students that were knocking on my door to kind of volunteer to do this for me too, because they love the brand so much. They love that they were able to
For
have
free?
a voice. Yep, totally for free. And we would give them like gift cards and like T-shirts and things like that as a thank you.
Like
But
ambassadors.
that's exactly right. Yeah, we had a large ambassador program, grew that to a little over 33,000 students across about 13,000 unique high schools around the country, and a little over 1.2 million high school students over the course of a couple years.
Damn. So when did you start like monetizing, or when did you start making revenue off of this?
Great question. It took a while, and it wasn't sustainable. So we had a website. It was smackeye.com. Where we kind of highlighted like the top stories. Like of each day or week. We had ads on that as well. We had about a 250,000 unique monthly visitors, all high school students, which was actually a lot for it being a very specific demographic. So we were making money from that. We are making money from certain brand partnerships, but we actually weren't making a lot as much as we thought we would. And the main reason, Nick, is because high school students, if you think about it, they
They don't got
don't
money.
make exactly. So the brands coming to us, they realize that, and they're like, "Look, we can advertise on your platform all day long, but no one's really ever going to buy something."
Yeah.
Um, so this kind of set up a light bulb in our heads. We're like, "Hey, like we know how to grow an audience, we know how to create a brand and create energy around a brand, but the demographic we're going after is too young, right? Too much
Not
on
the
the
right
you know
one,
the exactly. So we then set out over the next few months to kind of take what we had learned, all this like experience of brand building and growth, and to pivot it into a piece of technology that was, you know, we wanted to really make a big splash with. And we noticed in our user analyses, and we did a lot of retention analyses and user conversations. I was speaking to dozens of people every single day, literally. We found two interesting tidbits of information about the Gen Z demographic, right? Which is, high school and college as students at the time. One was that the number one social platform they used is not Facebook, not Instagram, not Snapchat, not Twitter. It was iMessage group chats. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh, obviously that makes sense. If you think about how you use your phone every day, how I use my phone, right? Even back then and now, we're texting all day long, right? Like we're in like text all day long with whether it's, you know,
So you're kind of just making your brands at this point almost somewhat relatable. Because how old were you
yes.
at the time of Smack High?
Um, when I left college to do it full time, and we had like VC funding and we were starting to hire people, I was 20. I wasn't even drinking age yet.
So you still know like how high school works, like everyone's thought
Yes,
process. So you know like how to get in all those people's minds, what they want.
that's exactly right. Yeah, that's like the being empathetic, right? Like try to put yourself in the shoes of that person. So yeah, I was definitely still fresh off of that. And over time, I learned to try and how to do that without being despite getting older every year, right? So yeah, we essentially realized this pretty early on. It was actually a very smart decision because um, revenue was limited, right? And also the funding that we raised from our VCs was limited too, right? It will run out at the end of the day because of we have to pay people salaries and all this and other stuff and other expenses.
How much
So
did you
we know.
raise?
So we raised 1.65 million. This was back in 2015. So at the time, a pretty big seed round and an additional 400,000 angel
If I
round.
can't count it on my fingers, it's a big number.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So that first observation of the iMessage, kind of being like your text messages as being a social platform was a big revelation for us, and no one was talking about it. You can Google all day long, like what are the most popular social media sites, and they'll all say the same thing. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, but no one was saying messages, and we were like, why aren't people thinking of messages, your text, as a social platform? Because you are being social on it. So that was realization number one. Realization number two was at the time, this is like 2016 now. Um, the preferred method of communication on top of messages was video chat. So just like we're doing right now on this podcast, right?
FaceTime was around then, right? I think it
FaceTime was
was.
around, but it was only one to one, like
Okay.
just like you and I are here. And there were other products that did like a group video chat, but they were extremely clunky. Like they were like Google Meets and like Uvu and Skype.
Yes,
You had
I
all your
remember Uvu, yeah.
Yeah, like you had to like download an app, create an account, like you had to send everyone invite links. It was just very clunky. It was a lot of times not very stable or fast. So we said, okay, interesting. We have these two pieces of information about the IMS, about group chats and about video. And all credit to my CTO co-founder. His name's Kevin Flynn. He basically kind of gave a really cool like idea, like kind of light bulb moment. It's like, hey, what if we can combine the two? And myself and my co-founder Giuseppe, and we kind of looked at each other. We're like, not sure, but let's see what you can do. So over the course of a weekend, he built what was FAM, and essentially it was exactly group FaceTime, group video chat, but inside of any text message chat.
So at this
Yeah.
point, you've kind of learned yourself how to develop a team, and you kind of
Mhm.
just through trial and error finding
Yeah.
people for the right position.
Mhm. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, it's you're exactly right. So my Giuseppe, my one of my co-founders I met through a mutual friend. They had the same similar taste and passion for technology, like I was starting to develop. And Kevin, basically we met him totally at just we had me and Giuseppe were again we were broke, so we had some free office space trial that we had in back in Fort Point here in Boston. And this was back when no one wanted to be in Fort Point and Seaport, so they were giving away
Yeah,
office space. Now, forget about it; it's $10,000, $20,000 a
yeah.
month. So we just kind of just rubbed elbows with him. He was in the same building as us, and he had the opposite problem that we had. We did a really good job at getting users and growing and building a brand, but we sucked at tech. We sucked at like building an actual app, right? We had like the website, we had the growth, but we needed like a really strong central tech mind, right? He was that tech mind, but he was having trouble getting users and growing. So it was a perfect relationship because we had both sides of the house covered there. So we talked, we worked together. yeah, he became our co-founding CTO. Then was able to build out the engineering team under him. Right, I had my marketing team as well, people running social medias and running like things like our emails and ambassador programs. And then our CEO and co-founder handling all the fundraising, all the business deals, things of that nature.
So when you flash back all the way, say in when you were at Harvard and going into high school, did you ever think that down the road, like 5, 10 years, that would have been the outcome to whatever you would have done?
Definitely not. It's funny. I was the closest thing I was thinking of studying in college, um, aside from like like business stuff, was like biomedical engineering. Like I really loved biology, like in high school and like in chemistry. So that's what I was
So
thinking of.
if you can remember, who did Frankie want to be? 17 or 18-year-old Frankie.
Oh yeah, definitely wanted to be like the guy at the lab coat, just like making like like maybe some
And then you
like
just go on a completely other route.
totally other route. Didn't would
I
not have
feel like
expected this.
I feel like you get that a lot. I mean, I know it now too. You get a lot of people that go into fields or study a certain major and they completely beeline it and absolutely hate it and they're like, I should have done this. But I feel like it's just what you did, that you experience it all, that I mean, I'd assume you love it, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, would couldn't picture myself doing anything else. It's really what really keeps you going, Nick, is when you get like a text message from a user or a customer,
Yeah, that's what it's all
and
about.
they're just like for example with FAM, and we printed this out and put it up in our office among many other things. But there was a father who reached out to us, who his son was deployed in Iraq at the time, and he needed a really easy way to video chat. And he wasn't too good with like apps and like downloading stuff. You know how like some parents are sometimes, like they didn't want to deal with
Okay,
all
yeah.
the
Yeah, they're
nonsense.
not
So,
tech
but
savvy. Yeah,
exactly. So our app was super simple. You downloaded it, it installed right in your iMessage keyboard, just like if you send a GIF to someone or something like that. So it was so easy and intuitive for him. And he's like, I'm able to, because of your app, I'm able to connect with my son. I chat with him, every so often now, and your app is the most seamless one to do it with. So those types of messages, or like with Smack High,
for sure.
our users were super, just like they were like, you guys get us, you guys understand that we
It's
are
an
told
escape.
all the time. Yeah, it's a way to blow off steam. Like high school stressful. You're in the same four walls for eight
Yeah,
hours
for
a day.
sure.
It's very clicky, right? When you go home, you want to relax, decompress, and maybe read some funny stuff. And we were that outlet. And so those things were kept us going. That's really pushed us through.
So, what are your thoughts on school and someone that may be going in school or someone that's in school that doesn't know where they are, they feel lost, or maybe they aren't able to tell someone that they don't want to go down that route? What advice would you give to them?
It's a great question. So with regards to entrepreneurship and business specifically, what I'll say is experience is the best teacher, right? You can take as many classes as you want in college about business administration, marketing, all the things that have to do with starting a business. Um, it really all doesn't mean much until you actually get out there and start it yourself and try to go through the trials and tribulations of starting something from zero to get a lot of people interested in it, or even if it's not like a tech thing, if it's like a convenience store, whatever you're starting, or a laundromat,
Hmm.
right? It's going out there and doing it, and you falling down and scraping your knee and getting those like cuts and bruises to figure out like the actual like learning process and learning curve and what you filter out to learn. No college will ever teach that. You can learn some stuff, and
Definitely, yeah.
my opinion, I think like the traditional college route has changed a lot over the past like couple decades, right? Like, you used to, for especially my parents' generation, you were taught that all the time, right? To go to college, get a degree, and it will lead to a higher income. And that still is
Tell me
true to a
about it.
degree. Yeah, it still is true to a degree today. But for the things like for like what I've done, you could never get taught that in college. But however, if you're trying to be a doctor or a lawyer or something that requires
Oh
some type
yeah.
of like certification or something like that, then that
Any
makes sense.
doctor out there using ChatGPT for their essays, I don't want you doing surgery on me.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
But yeah, I feel like, I mean, for me and my experience when I dropped out, I mean, I'm not to where I want to be yet, and I'm getting there. But my logic in school, right? I didn't coming out of high school, I didn't know of what I wanted to do, and I kind of wanted to take a gap year. But I mean, it's all like the stereotypes. Everyone's going to school, you feel pressured, and I feel like a lot of people aren't able to communicate that, and they just get stuck,
Yeah.
and it kind of pressures them into doing something that they think they might want to do, but they don't. Like I wanted to be a stockbroker, and then I was going to school and I was taking business classes. I mean, regardless of stock finance, whatever. I was getting taught how to run a business, like you were mentioning, these business teachers. I was getting taught how to run a business from a teacher that's never run a business before. And
Yeah.
that just didn't make sense to me.
Yep. Yep. You're 100% right, and it's so crazy that's actually real. But you're 100% right. And my advice to folks who are in that stuck situation, like they're maybe they're not even maybe they're out of college, maybe they're stuck in the first year or two of their new job, right? And they just feel like I don't know if I can see myself doing this for the next 40 years, right, or whatever. My advice is, right, to
Because you never
you
know,
know
right? You can go
yeah,
down one route, it might lead you to another.
completely right, completely right. And so, like, my advice is, like, if you have a really strong idea or passion for something else, like specifically something you want to start on your own, like whether it's you, like with your fitness, your fitness journey, like you're doing a lot of great content work on your fitness page I've been seeing,
Appreciate it.
or if it's someone
It's
that's
all fake.
yeah, the abs are fake, right?
Yeah,
The implants, no, it's good.
I
um,
wish.
yeah, they'll have to do all the hard work for, right?
Easy way out.
Um, yeah, exactly. My advice is, right, like, if you have that 9 to 5 job that you're trying to get out of for whatever reason, right? And you have this idea that you want to test and or whatever it is, and I would say, like, the easiest thing to do, right, is like, um, take $50, okay, take out a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad, or they're the same products, and make a quick little ad about what your idea is, right? It can even just be like literally a white background with the text of what it is, like whatever your idea is. Take out $50, super low cost. You can, with Facebook and
Did you
Instagram
see
ads,
the
you can target.
traction?
Yeah, you can see the targeting of. You can, like, target your exact person. So say your idea is going to be appealing to 18 to 30-year-olds, right, that are in Massachusetts, whatever. You can find that exact user group on Facebook and Instagram. If Run that ad for a week or two. If zero people click on it, well, either one thing happened: either your idea is not good, and hey, you only wasted $50 instead of wasting, like, the job that you have, right, or putting your life savings into the business, or two, you just picked the wrong, like, ad, like, you maybe the design wasn't good, or the way you communicated it wasn't good. But that's an easy way to validate it, right? For example, if you take this ad out and 20% of people that saw it click on it, holy crap, there's clearly an appetite for what you have for your idea. So now,
Love it. Yep.
congratulations, congratulations, right? You just validated your idea without even having to form an LLC, quit your job, raise money for it. Like, you just basically kind of validated that there's interest. At least there's interest there. So that's like one easy test. And I do that still to this day. For example, if any engineering team that I'm working with, engineering requires a lot of bandwidth. Like, engineering salaries are very expensive, and they work in usually 2 week sprints, which means they're building out a feature or fixing bugs during those 2 weeks, right? So they're
Yeah.
only focused on that for 2 weeks. So what you don't want to do is take time away from them, right? So you, as an entrepreneur, right, or in my case, a marketer, growth marketer, you want to try to see what else can I do on my side that won't bug the engineers, that won't take time away from them propelling the business forward from a product perspective, that I can do on my side to kind of bring value and bring, like, information, valuable data and information to my business partners or to my team, to be like, hey, we should do this. So that's like another kind of like a quick little, like, piece of advice.
Yeah. All right. So when you sold the FAM app, did you sell it completely?
Yes, yeah, we actually had quite a bit of offers, pretty much from 2 weeks after we launched. From
Oh
I
wow.
won't say the
Jeez.
I won't say the yeah I won't say the exact
2 weeks
companies, but
after.
let's
That's crazy. How long did the
yeah.
app take to how long did it take to make?
Uh, the first version was done in about 2 days. Like I said, we have a
That's nuts.
Kevin is a phenomenal engineer, and
That's
you know,
crazy.
I tell him that all the time from reflecting back in the early days. But
That's
yeah,
insane.
you know, to forget the first version, and then maybe another week or two to get it polished. But a working version was done in 2 days, and so yeah,
But
once
how
we hit
long
it,
were you working on it?
um,
Like the whole
oh, like
idea, like everything.
from when we sold it.
Yes,
Yeah, so it
from
was a year
scratch.
from scratch to when we sold it, a year and a half.
That's still a very fast turnover rate.
Yeah. Yeah. So we created quite a bit of buzz, you know, when because I had basically led up the launch strategy, the go to market strategy to get it off the ground. So I'll never forget. It was middle of December. Sorry, early December. And mind you, Nick, we're coming off of Smack High, right? Which keep in mind was having low
Yep.
revenue, right? Because it was hard to monetize that audience, and we were towards the end of our funding run rate, meaning like the money left in the bank from the VCs we raised money from was dwindling. So we actually, believe it or
Yeah.
not, we only had a month left of like being in business to go, and that was the month of December. So we literally had 30 days to think of
Crunch time.
the next big thing. So we launched it, and it's funny.
Sometimes it happens like that because I'd assume
Yeah,
you guys had different ideas as well.
we did. We did. We actually tested a few. We actually not many people know this, but before Fan, we tested four other apps. One was called like Smack Live, like branded off of Smack. It was like live broadcasting. One was called Smack Chat. It was like group chat discovery, like seeing groups of other, like say me and you in a group chat with like
Hmm.
some of our friends. We can see other groups in like in Saugus or whatever they're near us. So we had other ideas that failed, and so we really were
Pretty
trying
dope.
again, nose to the grindstone, like knowing like, hey, we got to really do as much as we possibly can here. So when we launched the app, I basically the reason for the million installs in 10 days was I had identified a select group of influencers that matched the target demographic user personas of who I
So
wanted.
that's how you marketed it.
Yep, exactly. It was all
Okay.
influencers, but it was a small amount of money. It was only about $500 that we spent for the first ad on the first day, and we were getting tens of thousands of installs per minute at one point, and we were top of the app store. I'm not sure if you know the app Game Pigeon, where you could like play games
Yeah.
with each other over a chat. So the founder of them, they reached out to us, but hey guys, just heard about your app. It's so
Isn't
cool,
that
love it. So that
built
was
in on Apple?
I don't know if it's default anymore. I don't know, but maybe it might be. Maybe they bought it. I don't even know. But yeah, we got offers to be acquired within a couple of weeks of launching. We had a million installs in 10 days, and I
That's
won't mention the
crazy.
companies. Yeah, I won't mention the companies, but they were all on the West Coast to give you an idea. Yeah, I ended up growing it for the next year or so, a little over 8 million users. DraftKings made the most sense to us. We did not want to relocate the company out to like San Francisco or somewhere out west. We wanted to show other consumer tech entrepreneurs in the Boston area that yes, consumer tech can work in Boston because Boston is not a traditionally strong consumer tech,
Yeah.
city. It's very healthcare and hardware and robotics tech, right, and a lot of like kind of SaaS. So consumer does not do well here usually. DraftKings is obviously one of those rare examples. But historically, it doesn't get a lot of love, right? Because there's not as much funding here to fund those things. So we wanted to stay here. We wanted to show entrepreneurs that like, hey, like if we can do it, you can too. In the consumer side,
Looked like it worked out.
it did.
So when you have these ideas and you said that you kind of made fam sporadically in that crunch time,
Yeah.
I feel like I mean you must have ideas right now that you don't take action on. I have ideas. It's kind of like the spur of the moment things that sometimes those are the best things. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. I think the best, kind of ideas and like aha moments come when you're least expecting it, and very like um, scenarios where you're like, I never would have thought of that. Like if you were to tell me, Frankie, like one day you're going to start, Smack High, it's going to be like one of the largest high school community platforms ever. I'm going to be like, what? Like, no, I'm going to do my biology thing, right? And so good things come unexpectedly, right? And Yeah, there are ideas, just like any kind of, entrepreneur that you have, like a little notepad or scratch pad, or just in your brain. They're like, oh, if I have time one day, if I really like think it's gonna work, I'll go after it. Um, but it's like it's gonna be really convincing, because it's a lot of risk involved, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, a little about this podcast. It was really sporadic. Like probably like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, maybe. I was like, I want to start. I mean, I've always wanted to start a podcast. Just, am I like, are people gonna listen to this bozo Nick? I don't know. Maybe they're tuning in now. But I had an idea, and fortunately, I've where I work, I've built a lot of connections with a lot of high value people, and I always ask. I'm a chatter. I love to talk to people, so I like really dig down deep and get the most out of them. And one day I was like, someone else could hear this, like the knowledge I'm gaining, and use it, whether it's inspiration. In this case, I go through the beginning of your journey to talk about the ins and outs of what you went through and how you got there. Because it's very relatable in everyone. You could be 18 years old, you could be 50 years old. The early days are, it's always going to be early to start something.
Right. Yeah, very well said. I couldn't agree more. And there's it's never it's on to finish that point. It's like it's never too late to start, right? There's countless entrepreneurs. I'm sure people listening have seen the stories of, you know,
That's the
um,
motto, never too late.
yeah, it's never too late to start, right? It's like the expression, the best time to buy real estate was yesterday, right? It's like it's always going to go up, right? So, if you have that idea, right, and you're really passionate about it and you've done a good amount of research and like validation, where it's like even just some basic stuff like talking to 50 random people over the course of a month on the street, right? Like show them like even just a little sketch that you drew of what your app idea is, if it's an app. Even that helps, right? Because you need some initial validation of your hypothesis, to make sure it's worth your while to because it's a full time commitment after that, right?
Yeah. I mean,
I put my life
the idea is always stupid until it works.
exactly right. That's exactly right. And I will say one thing, along that line is, I put my life savings at the time into funding Smack High for as long as I could until we raised. I didn't have much, but I saved up a good amount from the gap year I took off. Because
You
I
just
worked.
believed in it so much.
Yeah, and when you do that, Nick, right? Like any entrepreneur, when you have that skin in the game, it forces your brain to be like, I need to make this work. And then your whole perspective changes because now you're like, I put all this money, all this time, right? Like sleepless nights, right? I need to make it work. I will make it work at whatever cost because of the investment you put in, right? And then it's funny how like human behavior changes with that. When like it's on the line like that, it's like you can really humans can really people can really do great things.
Did you ever think it wasn't going to work?
Many times,
Yeah.
many times, and that's natural, right? Like it's, there's times when you feel like, "Oh, I wish I took the easier route or, kind of like, and that's normal. It's very normal to think that,
Sure. You want to be
because
comfortable.
you want to be comfortable. It's totally natural. And then sometimes you will also, the flip side is you want to see just how far you can go, just how many things you can do, despite your back being against the wall. It's like, how can you fight and claw back? Like a good example is like the Miami Heat, it's like this recent NBA playoff run, right? 8 seed, right? Like, but though they just lost in the finals, they had that dog in
Yeah.
them, right? They
Oh
know
yeah,
that
for sure.
they had
You
their
got
backs
to.
against the wall, and they were, they beat the Celtics, right? Like, and they it's sometimes that comes in a very unexpected way and brings out the best in you.
No, yeah. I mean, something to that kind of. I have something that I always say to myself. You can always tell someone a vision, but they can only visualize it. They can't feel what you're saying. So
Mm,
whoever has a idea and believes it in it so much, if you tell it to someone, it's like what I said, it's stupid until it works. You're the
correct.
only one that's able to visualize and feel what that dream is or goal that you're trying to achieve.
Totally agree. Yeah, it's very well said. And one important like no, that's very like along those same lines is, you know, don't tell people your dreams too much, right? Like don't say I'm, like what
Because
your
then you
dreams are
sound
because what
crazy.
Yeah, that, and it's also like the people are always gonna like try and like find the negatives with it, right? Because it's in our nature to look at like the risks of things, right? But the other part of it is if by you talking openly about it, would and not keeping it to yourself and like working on it in the shadows, like on your own, it actually makes your brain semi think that you completed it and that's satisfied and that's done. And then it starts to fizzle out and then you never do it again. You never like pursue that idea again. So if you really do have that idea, like, work on yourself in the shadows, get it to a point where it's kind of like you can get the foundation, the frame built, right? You have some early initial kind of like things going on, like maybe you have a few dozen customers, a few hundred customers, whatever your product is. Then at that point, you got 80% of the work done, meaning just starting it is more than half the battle, right? So that's the other like advice, kind of like
Yeah,
tip
it's
that I
always
have
gonna
there.
be a battle. For sure. I
Yep,
mean, no matter what you do, you're gonna have to fight, especially if you're
yep,
going down entrepreneurial route. Trying to start something on your own, it's gonna be a fight. You're gonna
yep,
have people around you doubting. I mean, that's most with like every new idea brought up.
yep,
There's gonna be
right.
doubters. And there's gonna be
Hmm.
the people that believe and the people that see your vision and see your drive and motivation. And that's the only thing that's gonna push you further so you can get to that goal and be like, I did it, here it
Yep,
is, and then you provide it to everyone.
yeah. Couldn't say it better myself. Totally agree.
So we're gonna wrap this up, Frankie. One last thing here. If you can give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Oh wow, that's a great question. I would say, you know, probably I did have an early mentor of mine that told me this, and at first I didn't act on it as much as I should have. But after going through a lot of tribulations, it's 100% true. Is to like never say no, right? To someone like offering to meet with you, or like they want to pick your brain on something, because you never know what can come out of that relationship, right? That interaction. It could be like whether it's maybe not in that day or that week, but maybe in a few years, that person remembers when you said yes to them, right? And like, oh, I remember when I asked Frankie for
It'll
advice for
resonate
something.
with you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like this, you sending out that positive energy outward, right, will come back to you in equally positive outcomes, right? So, I'm not here trying to say like someone tells you to, drive into a brick wall to say yes, right? But, I think you kind of know what I mean, where it's like, if there's an opportunity that comes your way to like meet with someone or to, go to like a networking event or,
Take it. Yep.
yeah, or start that blog on the side. You never know what
You
impact it could
never
have.
know where it's gonna lead to.
You never know. You can never. No one can predict the future. You can only
Yep.
plan for it and maximize your opportunities, which can
Oh yeah.
maximize the success of all those opportunities.
Well, thank you, Frankie. Thank you for joining me on this episode. We'll catch you on another early day. Peace out.